You know that feeling when you get home, unbox your new television, plug it in, and something just feels off? Maybe the colors look strange right out of the box. Maybe there's a weird, uneven glow creeping in from one corner of the screen. Or maybe you open the box and the remote isn't even in there. You stand there for a moment, staring at this thing you just drove across town to buy, and that quiet little voice in the back of your head starts asking, "Did I just make a mistake?" That feeling is more common than most people admit, and it happens to careful buyers. People who did their research, people who compared prices, read a few reviews, and thought they understood what they were getting into. The open box section at Best Buy looks like a smart shopper's dream. Big brand televisions at 30, 40, sometimes 50% off. But there's a gap between what the tag promises and what sometimes ends up in your living room. Today, we're going to close that gap. We're going to walk through the whole picture, the real savings, the real risks, what varies by brand, what varies by country, and exactly what you need to do before you hand over your money. Before we get into it, if you've bought an open box TV before or you're seriously thinking about it right now, drop a comment below. Tell me what brand you're currently using and what issues you've run into. I read every single comment. And if this kind of practical, no-nonsense content is useful to you, hit subscribe and leave a like. It genuinely helps more people find videos like this one. There are also some helpful links and recommendations down in the description that you can check out at any time. What open box actually means. Let's start at the very beginning, because a lot of people hear open box and just assume it means used. The reality is more layered than that, and understanding the difference matters a great deal when you're making a decision that involves several $100s. An open box television at Best Buy could be one of several different things. It might be a straightforward customer return. Someone bought it, brought it home, decided the size was wrong for their wall, and returned it within the store's return window. It might be a floor display model that sat in the store for weeks or months, running demo footage under bright overhead lighting for 12 or more hours every single day. Or it could be a unit that was opened purely for inspection purposes, confirmed to be in working order, and repackaged without ever being set up in anyone's home. As of 2026, Best Buy uses a 3-tier grading system for these units. Excellent means the item is essentially like new. It should come with all original accessories, look the way a brand new television looks, and function without any issues. Good or satisfactory means there may be minor cosmetic imperfections. A small scratch on the bezel, a scuff on the stand, but the television itself works correctly. Fair is the tier where more visible wear comes in. You might see noticeable marks or cosmetic damage, and there may be missing accessories, but the unit should still function as intended. Best Buy does run these televisions through a testing process before putting them back on the floor. Certified units come with restored warranties and are supposed to include original packaging. That is genuinely more than a lot of retailers do. But here is something that even experienced buyers sometimes overlook. A television that spent 2 or 3 months as a store display running 12 hours of bright, saturated, high-contrast demo content every day has experienced something very different from a television that sat in a box in a warehouse. That history matters, and it matters differently depending on the technology inside the panel. The savings are real, but so are the variables. The reason open box draws people in is completely understandable. You can walk out with a television that retailed for $600, $800, even over $1,000 for 30 to 50% less. On something like a TCLQM7K, Mini LED or a Hisense U8, That kind of discount means real money. Sometimes $300 or $400 back in your pocket, sometimes more. And a significant number of buyers do walk away happy. Excellent grade Samsung QLEDs in particular get consistent positive mentions in 2025 and 2026 reviews, with people saying they genuinely could not tell the difference from a brand new unit. But the savings are not uniform across all brands, all grades, or all store locations. And neither is the experience on the other side of that purchase. A good grade LG OLED might show an even bigger discount on paper, sometimes 50% or more off a 77-inch panel. That sounds incredible. And yet, that is precisely the category where you need to stop and think carefully. One buyer in 2025 saved $1,700 on a 77-inch LG open box unit, brought it home, and discovered cosmetic blemishes that were not fully disclosed at the time of sale. That gap between what was expected and what was actually received is exactly the kind of experience that turns a great deal into a frustrating memory. The point is not that open box is bad. The point is that the discount on the price tag is only one part of the equation. What you get for that discount depends on the brand, the panel technology, the grade, the specific store, and what you do before completing the purchase. Understanding the brands and their specific risks. This is where things get genuinely practical, because not all televisions carry the same open box risk profile. The technology inside the panel matters enormously, and so does how that technology responds to the kind of heavy use that store display models go through. Let's start with OLED panels, because this is where the conversation gets most important. LG, Sony, and Philips all make outstanding OLED televisions. Under normal home viewing conditions, modern OLED panels are exceptional. Deep blacks, accurate colors, wide viewing angles. But OLED technology has a known sensitivity. When a screen runs the same bright, high-contrast content for extended periods, which is exactly what happens to a store display model, the organic compounds inside the panel can degrade unevenly over time. That uneven degradation is what causes burn-in. It is not always visible immediately. Sometimes it shows up weeks after you bring the television home as a faint ghost image that never fully disappears. This is the single biggest risk with open-box OLED televisions, and it is the reason why even experienced, informed buyers treat them with extra caution, regardless of the price savings. Samsung QLED and Mini LED panels are a different story. TCL and Hisense use similar backlight technologies in their upper-tier models. These panels do not carry the same burn-in sensitivity that OLED does. The risks in open-box situations for these brands tend to be more about backlight uniformity, slight unevenness in brightness across the screen, sometimes showing up as a faint cloudy patch in dark scenes, or missing accessories like stands or remote controls. Those issues are annoying, but they are far more manageable than irreversible panel degradation. TCL open box units consistently receive relatively low complaint rates. Hisense open box in the excellent grade, particularly the U8 series, gets solid recommendations from buyers in bright living rooms where the high peak brightness of those panels really shines. Sony Bravia open box is worth considering, but quality variation can be noticeable depending on screen size and production run. What some buyers call a panel lottery. You might get a perfect unit, or you might get one where the panel characteristics are slightly off from what you'd expect from a premium brand. Vizio OpenBox sometimes surfaces firmware glitches, where the smart TV software behaves unexpectedly and requires a factory reset. Philips in the UK and European market has drawn complaints about burn-in on display units and cosmetic wear that was not properly disclosed at the point of sale. Xiaomi open box units in Europe and Australia have shown inconsistent quality control on returns, and lower-grade units from that brand carry more uncertainty than their price might suggest. Panasonic open box, particularly in European markets, can represent solid value if you find a unit that is essentially new in condition, but setup failures and tuning issues have been noted on display models that were configured for store use and not properly reset before resale. How Best Buy compares to other retailers. In the United States, Best Buy's open box process is probably the most structured and buyer-friendly of any major physical retailer. Their grading system, testing procedures, and return policies, typically 15 days for standard members, longer for Best Buy Total Tech members, give buyers a genuine safety net that you simply do not get from liquidation stores or online resellers. Best Buy Canada mirrors the US system quite closely. The deals on TCL, Hisense, and Samsung are similarly attractive north of the border, and the risks and rewards parallel what buyers experience in the States. In the United Kingdom and across Europe, the closest equivalent to Best Buy's open box program is what Currys and PC World offer with their graded inventory. They stock graded Philips OLEDs, Panasonic models, and televisions from other brands at reduced prices. But buyer reports suggest the testing and disclosure process is less consistent than what Best Buy applies. There have been reports of units described as graded that showed burn-in or setup failures that weren't properly flagged before sale. European buyers shopping graded televisions should factor in that extra uncertainty and inspect even more carefully than they might in a Best Buy store. In Australia, JB Hi-Fi is one of the more common sources for open-box Sony and Vizio units. 2026 community forums echo many of the same concerns that US buyers raise, with Xiaomi in particular getting called out for inconsistent quality control in returned inventory. The underlying lesson across all these markets is the same. Retailer reputation and process matter. The discount alone does not tell you whether you're protected if something goes wrong. What to actually do before you buy. This is the section that years of practical buying experience eventually leads you to. The discount on the tag is only the starting point. What you do in the store, or the questions you ask before completing the purchase, is what actually determines whether you walk away with something you'll be happy about or something you'll regret. First, and this is genuinely non-negotiable, ask to have the television powered on before you pay, every time. No exceptions. Look at the full screen in a solid white image, then a solid mid-gray, then a solid black. Each color reveals different things. White and gray help you see backlight uniformity issues, uneven patches, bright corners, that kind of thing. Black is where you catch dead pixels and panel damage. And if you're buying an OLED, a solid mid-gray image held for a few minutes is the best way to look for burn-in. Retained images from previous content will show up as faint shadows against a neutral background. Do not let anyone rush you through this step. If a store associate is uncomfortable letting you do this, that itself is information worth paying attention to. Second, look at the grade label carefully and ask what it actually means for that specific unit. Ask directly whether the television was a floor display or a customer return. Ask how long it was on display if it was a floor model. Those are completely reasonable questions, and any well-informed associate should be able to look that information up in the system. If no one can answer it, factor that uncertainty into your decision. Third, check for all accessories before leaving the store. Remote control, power cable, stand hardware, and original packaging if you're purchasing an excellent grade certified unit. Missing accessories are not just an inconvenience. They are a signal about how carefully the unit was handled and processed before being put back on sale. A missing remote might mean a $20 replacement purchase. A missing stand might mean more. Know what you're getting. Fourth, understand the return window completely before you walk out. Best Buy's standard policy gives you 15 days. Total Tech membership extends that. 15 days is enough time to live with the television in your actual home environment, under your actual lighting conditions, watching your actual content, and surface issues that might not have been obvious under store lighting. Use all of that time if you need it. Don't wait until day 14 to actually inspect the picture carefully. Fifth, confirm the warranty situation in writing on your receipt. Best Buy's certified open box units are supposed to come with a restored manufacturer warranty. Make sure that's actually reflected in your paperwork. If the unit doesn't come with a clear warranty statement, that's additional risk that should factor into whether the price makes sense for you. The honest calculation. Here is the part where I want to give you the honest framework, not the one that simply declares open box always smart, and not the one that says it's always a gamble. The reality sits between those two positions and varies based on specific choices. On an excellent grade mini LED or QLED television, a TCL-QM7K, a Samsung QLED in the upper tier range, a Hisense U8, the math often works out genuinely well. These panels are more durable under the conditions that store display models experience. The grading on excellent tier units at Best Buy is generally reliable. The return policy gives you a real testing window. For buyers who are comfortable with the in-store inspection process and who understand what the return window covers, these categories represent real value. On OLED panels, LG, Sony, Philips, the calculation gets harder and requires more care. The potential savings are larger, sometimes dramatically so, but the risk of hidden wear is also larger. If you're going to buy an open box OLED, it should genuinely only be an excellent or certified grade unit. You should do a longer and more careful in-store inspection than you would for a mini LED panel. You should specifically check for burn-in using the gray screen method described above, and you should treat the full return window as part of your evaluation process, not just a fallback option. On good or fair grade units of any panel type, the savings need to be substantial enough to genuinely justify the uncertainty you're accepting. These are not automatically bad purchases. Some good grade units are outstanding values where the cosmetic issue is genuinely minor, but they require the most thorough inspection, the clearest understanding of what you are accepting, and the most honest self-assessment of whether you're comfortable with that level of uncertainty. A note on long-term thinking. Something worth keeping in perspective as you think through this decision. A brand new television loses a significant portion of its market value the moment you unbox it. There is no meaningful resale market that gives that back to you. An open box television, if you get a solid unit at the right grade and price, gives you most of the real-world function at a fraction of the cost. For a secondary bedroom setup, a basement or garage installation, a first home where the budget is real and meaningful, or simply a situation where you want a large, capable television without paying flagship prices, that is not a trivial advantage. But open box buying consistently rewards patience and attention. It is not the right approach if you are in a rush and can't do a proper inspection. It is not the right approach if the return process feels like a burden you won't actually follow through on. It works best for buyers who treat it as what it genuinely is. A calculated decision with specific steps. Not a guaranteed win simply because the price looks good on the tag. The buyers who come away satisfied with open box purchases are almost always the ones who went in knowing exactly what to look for, took the time to actually look for it, and understood the return policy well enough to use it confidently if needed. That combination of preparation and follow-through is what separates a smart deal from a frustrating experience. So, at the end of the day, the best television is the one that fits your actual room, your real viewing habits, and your genuine budget. Not the one with the most impressive specification sheet. Not the one with the biggest discount. Not the one your neighbor bought or that got the most online attention. The one that you'll still feel good about a year from now, sitting in the same spot, doing exactly what you needed it to do. Open box at Best Buy can absolutely be a smart deal. On the right brands, at the right grade, with the right inspection, and the right understanding of your return options, it can save you real money on a television that performs beautifully for years. But it requires you to show up prepared. It requires you to ask the right questions, look at the right things, and understand what you're agreeing to before you walk out the door. Which is exactly what you've done today by watching this all the way through. Drop a comment below and tell me which TV you're using right now and what has been frustrating you about it. I genuinely want to know, and those comments help shape the topics we cover next. Check the description for links and resources that can help you compare your options more carefully. And if this kind of content is useful to you, subscribe so you don't miss what's coming up next. Take care of yourselves and make the decision that actually makes sense for your life, your home, and your budget.